What's up, everyone? Happy Friday. It is January 24th, 2025. That feels so crazy to say out loud. How are you? You know what I'm going to ask you? Did LinkedIn tell you we were live? Would you be so kind? Would you share the show with someone who doesn't know that we are live right now, who maybe has never seen the show before? I would so appreciate it. Welcome back if you've been here before. If it is your first time, welcome to the Friday Live with Lauren show. I was not here last week. I was not feeling too well, so we just didn't go live. Want to give you all the energy I can. But the week before that, we had our first episode of the season talking about starting a live show and what that means and what that looks like. So I'm excited to kind of revisit that today. We had some technical difficulties. Yes, even 3 years into running a show, you can have technical difficulties and issues with things. Happy Friday, Chris Jarvis. Great to see you. If you are here, let me know, where are you joining us? It's us. Normally I have a guest. It's me today. Michelle Craig might join me at the half for a few minutes, but it's just me. But where are you joining from? I am in sunny South Florida. It is not warm. You'll notice I have a sweater on. It is 58 degrees, which is quite cold for us South Floridians. And I'm going to tell you all my fun Friday fact later in the show. But if you ever watch the show, at the very end, we have a fun Friday fact. This season, I'm actually going to have a link for you all to submit your own fun Friday facts. We will read those alive on the show. I think that'll be really fun, allowed on the show. So what's up? Yes, got a note from the new show. That is awesome. Thank you, Chris. What's up, Tom? Thank you for tuning in. I got to meet with someone via a connection that you recommended the other day, which was really nice. PA finally thawing out. Who are you, LinkedIn user? Let me know. And I'm glad PA is finally thawing out for you. Okay, we have a lot to talk about, a lot of topics to get into. But I know this is really for people who are thinking about starting a live show, or maybe you've considered what's going into it and you want to know. What's up, Mom? Thanks for joining. And my mom's my biggest supporter. She's going to show up each week. Don't go bug her on LinkedIn or I'll be mad at you. Okay. So we have 4 topics that we discuss each week on this show. That's going to be something we talk about, is kind of your content strategy, how you want to set up your show, what you want it to be like. But as you all know, you can ask questions in the chat. I will try to answer them if I can. Yes, very cool, Tom. It was really cool. I appreciate that. Y'all, this show connects people. I have met so many people through the comments on this show, and the party is in the comments. And if you're not commenting, you're not going to meet new cool people. So go comment, go meet people like Tom, people like Chris, people like Jody. Oh, going over to YouTube. Hey, Jody, cool. So go talk in the comments. That's where you meet people. Yes, any show you watch, you're probably going to like the host of the show. That's why you're tuning in, right? But the people who are tuning in and who are commenting probably have more in common with you than you care to think. So comment, engage, meet people. That's part of the reason why you go attend these events and you join these shows, is to really meet the people in the comments with like-minded interests. So, okay, we have 4 topics. When I started this show, I had been on a few shows. Some were very interview style, question and answer, very rehearsed. Some were kind of just discuss topics, see where it goes. And big shout out to Jessie Lezak. Her show had kind of 4 topics. I loved the way it was structured, and I kind of wanted to steal that kind of structure and run with that. And then from that, kind of take it and evolve it and make it something different. So, I really enjoyed hosting people and getting to talk to people. I didn't necessarily love being on the other end of the spectrum of being interviewed all the time, and I didn't think I could do that kind of thing each week, but I really wanted to be live each week and figure out a way to do that. So starting a live show and interviewing other people, other thought leaders, people in LinkedIn who could really teach and level up my network was where I landed. And I got to get started on getting a list of people going for the show and who would be great guests and what topics we would discuss. What's up, Mark? Yes, end of the month. You can watch the replay, just so you know. And yeah, Jody, Wednesday, Reveting was it is such a good show. I think she moved it to a daytime show this year. It used to be night times, Wednesday at 9 p.m. Now it's daytime, I believe. But Jessie is a great show. Highly recommend. Go follow. But getting to be on that show really showed me that I liked hosting and I really liked that side of things. So starting a weekly show was something that I knew would work out well if we were consistent. The first week we went live, we had a lot of people. I say we, I mean me. I don't know why I say we. I'm sorry in advance, but it's going to happen again. The first week I went live alone, I talked about recruiting, what it meant to be a recruiter. Let me know if you guys ever want me to have another show about that, about how recruiters get paid and what the relationships look like on the internal and external teams. Those are always really fun shows to have. But we went live the first week and the show did really well. And I reached out to Michelle Craig, who now comes on each week, and asked her if she'd like to start for High Five Friday. She came on as well. And that went well for High Five Friday. She was my first guest before we brought on High Five Friday season 2. But she was my first guest season 1 to ever come on the Friday Live with Lauren show before it had a name. So that's kind of the beginning and how this show started. But I want to talk to you about how you can start your own show. First thing we're going to get into are the technical essentials for live streaming. I know I talked about some of this when we were having episode 1, but to be fair, I was having technical difficulties that show and I wasn't really paying attention. I think I blacked out most of the episode. So let's jump into it. If you have questions, let me know. But the first big thing I want to tell you is that you do not have to have a very professional studio like this. Yes, it looks nice. Yes, I have nice equipment, but this is not a requirement to start a live show. When I first started a live show, I was in my home office using the camera and mic built in on my MacBook. Nothing fancy, hoping I had good lighting, hoping it didn't rain, things like that. Hoping my dog didn't bark in the background, that we didn't get any Amazon deliveries. It was really humble beginnings, but it was fun and I enjoyed it. So yes, you probably see this setup and it looks nice, but you don't have to have this. And if you're not starting with this, don't feel that pressure. Really, once you get into streaming and you know it's what you want to do, you want to have a live show, I do suggest investing in a camera. Buying a camera, the camera is completely different from my normal camera. And because this is a show where I want you to see the difference, I'm going to switch it while we're live so you can actually see the difference between what investing in a camera did for me versus what my other camera looks like. So this is my regular camera on my MacBook. As you can tell, it is not the same whatsoever. Things look very different. So I prefer my Opal C1 camera. I'm not going to drop a link or anything like that, but that's the camera I use. And you can see how much of a difference it makes using an upgraded camera versus the one on your laptop. All right. I also use a more professional mic. This is a Rode microphone. I've used a few different microphones. I don't necessarily recommend one or the other. There are a few people that I will link later in the comments on this episode that I think you could go follow if you really want to get into some super specifics. And yes, like Jody said, you have to start somewhere. It doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be world renowned, but start. Just start. And if you start, maybe you'll end up like this one day where you decide it's something you want to invest in and keep doing. And then you'll end up in a podcast studio with the lights and the backdrop and the microphone and the ring lights and all of the things. But just start. It's really, really good advice. And thank you, Melissa, for listening in. I always appreciate it. I know you guys are busy on a Friday afternoon, but thank you for tuning in. So technical essentials for live streaming. If you are going to live stream on LinkedIn, you do have to have an outside program to stream with. I use StreamYard. I'm not going to drop that link either. I don't want this to be about affiliate links or anything like that. You can make money off of affiliate links. If you have a very successful show and you choose to share those things, that is something that you can do. But technically, you do have to have a outside streaming platform. Hello, Gregory, increasingly warming up Winnipeg. I like that for you. It is getting increasingly colder here in South Florida. I do not like that for me. If you tuned in first episode, you know one of the things I told you all about is that this season my goal is to make my studio more portable. Right now I have to come to this studio physical location every single Friday. And while I love the studio and the look of it, it's not always super convenient to have to be in one place. So I will be taking you all on a journey with me of figuring out a more portable setup and kind of the headaches and hiccups that go along with that. So stay tuned in the coming weeks for this all to start to look a little bit different. We'll see how that goes. But that's something that'll be exciting for me in season 3 to figure out. Other things, technically, you don't necessarily need a soundproof room, but you need something a little bit quieter. You don't want to have really loud neighbors, people talking, people walking in, doors opening, people walking in the background. It does get distracting when you're live. I know that's not a technical essential, but it is something to consider when you're getting set up with your space. And then the other thing to always consider is how much are you going to repurpose your content? What is that going to look like? And what tools are you going to use on the back end to repurpose? How often are you going to republish that content? And what can you do with it? I know I have hours upon hours of shows. My ultimate goal is to break that down into short 5-10 minute clips of topics that I can repurpose into short episode podcasts. And that's a nice thing about having a live show and having all of this content is you can do a lot of different things with it. I can post reels, I can pull the audio. We can just replay a live show from a year ago if we want to, if I'm sick on a Friday. There's a lot of different opportunity because I was consistent and I have so much content. One of the other technical essentials you can see right now, my internet's a little wonky. You need good internet to stream. And sometimes, especially if you are in a space with shared internet, it's not always the best. When I am at home, when I was streaming from home, I did upgrade my internet to the most expensive, highest, whatever internet you could get so that when I was streaming, I had no issue whatsoever. Hey, Michelle, good to see you. It will come to you, the warm up of weather. Yes. It will come to me next week. My vote is for Sunset from Pier 60. That's not a bad vote, Lee. Good to see you, Lee. Yes, hello to Michelle. Okay, where were we? So technical essentials. I'm not going to talk a ton more about this. If you have specific questions, I'm always happy to answer anything about live streaming, anything to help you. When I am live streaming right now, I already told you the mic, I told you the camera. I have a ring light on both sides. These are soundproof panels on the walls in the back. The wall actually connects. So this is V-shaped here. And then there's 2 lights that pan up the light on the wall in the back. That's what I use. I'm still using just my laptop. I don't have any other like TV screen or anything else in this room. It is completely dark. If you watch season 2, when I first moved to the studio, I was maybe in the middle of season 1. I don't remember. That's how long it's been. When I first moved to the podcast studio, I was so new at this. I had the beautiful studio and all the lights, and I didn't turn the lights off. And I filmed in here every Friday with all the lights on. And the contrast between what this looks like versus what that looks like is almost shocking if you ever want to go back and look at that. But it's the things you learn along the way. I was not a professional. I wasn't a pro. After doing this for 3 years, I mean, my first episode coming back, I had a power issue with my computer. I think I figured it out now. We have no issues today, knock on wood. But anything can happen at any point, and it's really, are you going to be resilient enough to roll with the punches when you are live? And that's something you got to think about. Having a recorded podcast or something like that is completely different, but if it's a live stream, if you're expecting on having a guest or something like that and they don't show, what are you going to do? What are you going to talk about? How are you going to handle it, etc., etc.? Okay, I think that's enough for technical essentials. If you have questions, again, let me know, DM me. Happy to help, happy to answer anything like that. The next thing I want to talk about is content strategy and audience engagement. So when I first started the live show, LinkedIn had just started really pushing lives. I think they pushed them a little bit heavier in the very beginning, but we also had a lot more ways to track the engagement. I could watch and literally see after the episode where people were falling off, if they would stay for 10 minutes, if they would stay for 15 minutes. And I knew I could get people about halfway through the show before they would fall off. So the first season I worked on fixing that and figuring out how to get people to stay for the entire show. Really working on making it not a webinar, making it something that's exciting. When I talk to guests who are coming on this show, and they talk about what is it going to be like, because not everybody's seen the show who comes on the show. Shocker. But I tell them, if you remember before we had a DVR, age myself a little bit, right? Before we had DVR, before you could record anything, when you would rush home to watch your favorite talk show or soap opera or whatever it was, and you would have that feeling of you'd be so excited for this one thing you'd waited all week for, right? I eventually want this show to feel like that. I want it to be exciting and fun and something that you look forward to coming back to each Friday. And that's the feeling I want people to get. And that involves people laughing. And yes, they need to learn so that they can show up on a Friday at 3 or 2 or 1 or whatever time it is when you're showing up. But you need to be able to learn something so that work approves, but you need to laugh and you need to enjoy coming each week or you won't come back the next week. So that's something that I started thinking about is when are people laughing? When are people being engaged? How many questions are we answering? How much engagement is coming in? Are we really asking people to comment? Are we asking their opinion? If you're watching this right now, do me a favor, comment something. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. Drop an emoji in the chat, but those are things, and I'm asking right now, if you were watching, please drop an emoji in the chat. These are things that you have to do to consider your audience engagement. What are people doing? Are you awake? Are you with me? At some point last year, we would do like a would you rather. At the halfway point, it was funny. The Fun Friday fact at the end, I had somebody sing opera. I had somebody tell us why flamingos are pink. I had somebody do an Australian accent. I mean, funny stuff from some sales leaders that you wouldn't expect that from, right? Thank you, Jody. Appreciate you. Oh, and I like your emojis too. I will judge your emoji use, just so you know. Uh, but your audience engagement matters, and a lot of that is your content strategy. So going into your content strategy, you have to think about a few things, right? How long do you want to be live? It is a lot to be live for an hour, especially by yourself. It is a lot to be live talking to someone that you don't know, and it's not rehearsed and it's not scripted, and you have no idea what's going to come out of their mouth. So what do you want it to be? What do you want it to feel like? Do you want it to be more of an interview style show so that you're more comfortable? Maybe that's where you start in the beginning. Does it need to be something that you can repurpose and use in the future for other content? Hopefully you're thinking it is something you'll use in that way. Because why are you doing this if you're not going to reuse it? But thinking about all of that is important. And then really breaking down the strategy of your content of, if I'm going live, is it going to be the same time each week? Is it going to be sporadic? Is it going to be 10-minute increments with just me talking about a topic? Is it going to be something different each week? Am I going to have different hosts? And all of these things are different that you can consider, but thinking about what you want the outcome of the show to be. Are you trying to gain inbound leads? Are you trying to get more people for your business? Are you trying to sell product? All of those things matter in your content strategy. One of my big things is that I don't want to sell anything during my live show. I want this to be something that you just enjoy coming to, that you don't feel like I'm pitching you or selling you. Eventually, if we have a business relationship, great, but that's not the point of this. And the point of this show for me from the very beginning was really, I just enjoyed it. And I showed up each week because I enjoyed it. And at some point during the first season, and we'll talk about monetization a little bit, but I started to monetize the show. And I will tell you all, I did not enjoy the show nearly as much once I monetized the show, which is another reason why the show is not monetized anymore. So I can do what I want, when I want, feel how I want. Gregory says, I'm in the infant stages of starting to do video, just doing research on the tools that is needed. Gregory, you do not need a bunch of tools to do video. You got a phone, you can do video. You can record yourself. You can send a video. It is super simple. Go on a LinkedIn message, DM me. You can literally open the camera in your LinkedIn DMs. Send me a video. I'll send you one back. Sending videos is such a great way to start getting comfortable, especially on camera. Before I had a live show, I did work for a company that had us send 50 videos a day. And doing that for months on end really, really helped me with my confidence on camera. I will say it almost hurt my confidence in person a little bit, but on camera, I feel like I could do anything. But thinking about all of those things in terms of your content is important. Ultimately, do you want your show to be for one specific niche? Is it just going to be for marketers? Is it just going to be for sales leaders? Is it just going to be for CFOs? What is your target audience for the show? For me, I want people to level up their career. And I have a lot of people in my network at a lot of different points in their career. So I try to think about that when I'm talking to guests coming on this show. Let's talk about something for a job seeker. Let's talk about something for a sales leader who's managing a team. Let's talk about something for somebody who's trying to get a promotion. We talk about these things because these are the people who are watching, right? Let's talk about the entrepreneur and what you went through in your struggle because somebody's facing that right now. Okay, I like the nail emoji. Now you got to make me show my nails. I got I don't know if you can see. Can you see? I have all these little like rhinestone gems. I don't know. I got to learn how to do that. I definitely can tell I've never like sold anything online. I don't know what I'm doing. Jody says, always has been helpful. Every show is something for everyone. Yes, and that's the point. Thank you, Jody. I want the show to have something for everyone in every episode so that, especially if you can't watch the whole show, you know which topics come and in which order. I list them on the show. And if every time I'm talking, it's pretty much 10 minutes a topic, you can kind of jump through and figure out your piece. But I do think that the people I have on the show are pretty entertaining. And they're entertaining and they're interesting enough that you can stay tuned for the entire hour and really learn 3, 4, maybe 5 new things that you didn't know and make connections. I've had people DM me after and say, hey, I saw this leader on your show. I'm not going to name names, but I saw this leader on your show. I was super inspired. I reached out. We have meetings scheduled. I've had people on the show who are masters at video or social selling, and people DM them and reach out to them after the episode and say, hey, I saw you on the show. And they respond when they have 40, 50, 60,000 followers. And maybe you wouldn't always get a response from that person, but you saw them on the show, you saw something that resonated with you, and that helped you have that common ground to reach out to. The other thing I will say before I move on from this topic, we are going to move on from this topic, but audience engagement, in my opinion, and this is one of my hot takes for 2025, but audience engagement looks different this year. People have been over consuming content since 2020 and COVID. And the whole social selling was so big in the past few years, and building connections and consistently engaging. And I do think we have a lot of burnout. People are still there, but we are going to see a lot more lurking. You can already see on other social platforms like Instagram that they are rating sending a post over likes on a post right now because more people are sending or saving a post than they are publicly liking and reacting and commenting on things. So is your post that you're posting and is the show that you're showing valuable enough for someone to save that episode to go back to later? Yes or no? Are you showing someone enough value that they will need to go back to this later to relearn or remember something you taught them? And that's another thing that when I have someone on the show, that's one of the things we talk about. I want people to come back to this because this was so insightful. They learned so much from this episode that it was that important. Yes, Michelle. Networking. Okay, if you have questions, let me know. In terms of audience engagement, just in my experience on LinkedIn, the first season, building a consistent audience, for me, it wasn't just getting the viewers, right? We all know if you look at a LinkedIn event, you have people who are attending the event, and then you have the people right now who are actually watching. I don't even have this open in another tab, so I have no idea how many people are watching, but you have the attendees and the people who actually view. So one, you want more attendees, you want a ton of people to show up, but you don't have people show up. If they don't register for the event, they don't get a reminder. So you want people to register. So in the beginning, I wasn't mindful of who I was inviting. Once I got more mindful of who I invited, my attendees went up, and so did the amount of people who watched. Over the first season, I got more consistent with that. And then the show naturally grew over time because of my consistency. And then in year 2, once I was really monetizing things, not only was I super consistent about who I invited, I also was very consistent about making sure I was inviting my paid sponsors, employees, because they would also show up for the show. So that was something that helped me with that. And really, I think, helped the show continue to grow in season 2. There was a point in season 2 where LinkedIn was really pushing lives, and then it's kind of dropped off a little bit. I don't think LinkedIn really knows what LinkedIn wants to do right now, if we're all just being really honest with each other. But let me hold on. So I got somebody popped on the back. I got Michelle Craig here. We're going to talk about High Five Friday. Let me get her. Hey.
Hey. Oh, wait. I think my mic is back here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Hello. Hi, everybody. Happy Friday.
She put in the background, no rush. I'm going to rush for you always. What are you talking
about? Yeah. First of all, happy Friday, everyone. For those who have followed the show, which I think most people on today are familiar with what we did with High Five Friday last year. This year, we're pivoting it just a little bit. So rather than every week, we're going to do it on I think we agreed last Friday of the month. So we'll be collecting those high fives. If you don't know what a high five is in this context, it is a shout out for somebody else in your network that you want to lift up. It can be your boss, your teammate, it can be your dog, your mom, anyone who is hopefully present on LinkedIn so they can actually reap the rewards of the shout out and hear it. Or you can give yourself a high five, which is sharing a win or an accomplishment. I'll probably drop a post next week on kind of the history of this, where it came from. But yeah, once a month, I'm going to jump on, share those high fives, celebrate the people that are making an impact. And I'm super stoked.
Yes. And the other thing I think we're going to add is also the job seeker recognition. So if you know a job seeker who is looking, we would love to start highlighting them on Fridays, the last Friday of the month as well. Did I miss that? Did you say that?
I did not say that. So good catch. See, this is why we're a good duo. You know, together we make one.
I know, but sometimes when people are talking and I'm listening and I'm like, I want to listen to what you're saying, but I'm also in my head, I'm like trying to check boxes, right? Y'all, anytime you're live, have a piece of paper with all the stuff written down that you need to talk about so that you can remember to like go through all your topics. And this is the one topic I don't think I have written down. But yeah, so we also want to highlight job seekers. We all know you know a job seeker, or you might be a job seeker. So please, please, please let me know. Oh, Lindsay says, hey girl, hey, better late than never. And Gregory says, we can hear you, Michelle. Chris says hi to Michelle. Money back. What? Love that. Yes, we love that. So high fives last Friday of the month, highlighting job seekers. We'll take what, like 5 to 10, depending on how many we get. We'll have to see and how long it takes. It's gonna come back at the halfway point. Well, I'm sure we'll have Michelle back as a guest this year. If you did not see, Michelle's mom came on the show. I think I have some videos I need to post of clips of your mom. She was phenomenal on the show. But we had the mom episode last year. Go back and watch that if you missed it. It was not one to be missed. Lindsay said, love that you're going to highlight job seekers. Yes, it is so important that we help as many people. If you are up, send the elevator down. And my headline says, if I can't, my network can. So y'all don't make me liars. Let's do this thing. But Michelle, High Five Friday is going to be fun. I'm stoked.
Ooh, like, year 3, baby.
Whoop, whoop. Okay, so it's Friday. What is your win for today?
My win is I hit a noon Barry's bootcamp class. And if you have not done Barry's bootcamp yet, it is hard AF, but it is amazing. So I'm doing a 20 class challenge because I've lost my marbles and I'm 25% of the way through, baby. Getting there.
Okay, high five for Michelle. I am super impressed with that. I know one day we'll get it. I'm super impressed with that, Michelle. It's so amazing. I have not done a boot camp, and I don't want to admit how long. Way too long. But good for you. Keep it up. Let us know when you get 100% of the way. We will cheer you on. Y'all, if you are watching, Michelle's 25% of the way through. It's how many weeks? 20 weeks?
No, it's 20 classes in like less than 30 days.
Ah, oh my gosh. Oh, Michelle did lose all her marbles.
I did. I've lost. There weren't very many to begin with, and they are gone.
You sound like the people who tell me to do 75 hard. Nope.
What's your win, Lauren? What's your high five or your win for the week?
My win for the week, honestly, right now, is that we had no technical difficulties for this show, because the first episode having technical difficulties and literally like blacking out halfway through the episode was no bueno. So that's really good for me. And Sunday, I have some plans to like just really like reorganize some stuff and like refresh my house and do some spring cleaning, even though it's not quite spring, but I'm super like, my win is that I set aside time for that and I'm planning for that and I'm trying to do things to get there and accomplish that. So I'll let y'all know next week how that went.
I love it. I'll hold you accountable to that, because I have a giant pile of things to sort through right next to me. So we'll hold each other accountable. We'll check in Monday afternoon and see how far we got.
Yeah, I'm cleaning out years worth of clothes out of a closet of things that don't fit me. So we'll be cleaning things out, and then I'm sure, selling some things and donating some things. So yay, I'll have to try on clothes and see what does and doesn't fit. And that's no fun. It's only fun if you're buying new clothes.
Awesome.
All right, Michelle, have a wonderful weekend. See you next week for High Five Friday.
Next week, High Five Friday. So we better get those high fives in. I want a minimum of 5. All right. So I know we've got over 5 people watching right now. I want a minimum of 5 for next week, or I'm calling people out.
No, we'll get the link dropped. We'll let you guys know. And I think I have like 1 or 2 that piled up from the last time that we never got to. So we'll get to those. If you ever submitted one and we didn't get to it, let me know. Let me make sure we get to it. And Michelle, we'll see you next week.
Bye. Have a great weekend, everyone.
All right. We are back. It is episode 2. If you tuned in late, of the Friday Live with Lauren show. I've been a slacker and did not have 2 shows, so we are only at episode 2, not 4. It is what it is. Okay, you can ask your questions in the chat. This is the show all about live streaming. We already talked about technical essentials, about your studio setup, all of those things. We talked a little bit about content strategy, audience engagement, what that's going to look like for you. The next few things we're going to talk about are performance and presentation skills, as well as growing an audience and monetization goals. Okay, y'all, performance and presentation skills. If you have never filmed a video, don't start a live show. Hot take. No, but for real, like Gregory said, he's trying to get started on video, right? He would not start a live show without being comfortable and confident on video. And the other thing I want to tell you is that even when you have been doing this for years, you will have days and you will have moments and you will have times where you do not feel confident and you do not feel like you have it going on. And it is not great. Your voice will quiver sometimes, right? Or crack. That will happen to you. It's going to happen to you. And that's the other thing people need to tell you. People don't tell you this enough in your job. You're going to fail in your job from time to time. It's not always going to be sunshine and rainbows. When you're doing a live show, things are going to go wrong. Your performance isn't always going to be there. Your presentation skills might lack. I think I said something wrong like 4 or 5 times in the first episode because I was so discombobulated watching the battery die on the computer while we were live. I've had episodes where I have literally broken out in hives, and you can see from here to here where I am bright red because I'm nervous. It happens. It can happen from the day. It can happen from things that happen before I'm going live. It can happen because I have a guest on the show that I've never met and I'm nervous about. It can happen for any reason whatsoever, but it's not always going to be perfect. You have to be able to run with it and go with it and get through it anyway. Donate them, meaning clothes you're not going to wear to. Yes, Gregory. However, I have to figure out how to get them there from Florida. But that sounds like a great idea. Same plans for Sunday organizing. Yes. I remember the Hive episode. You handled that with Jody. It's happened more than once or twice, but I'm glad you remember one of them. But that happens. And it's going to happen, and hopefully you don't break out in hives, right? Like I pray that never happens to you. But something will happen, some way, shape, or form. You're going to be uncomfortable, and you have to learn to roll with that and get through that. The other things that will happen, I have had guests come on that have literally shocked me. You have guests who come on who you think are going to be absolutely incredible and amazing. And you get on the show and you're interviewing, or I don't really want to call it an interview, but you're chatting with them, right? And they're flat and it's dull and the story isn't there. And you ask a question and you expect for this great response. And it's like a 4-word answer. Next question. And that's not what I want the show to be. And it's happened a few times. I will not call out when, but if you've watched the show enough, you can go back and find them. And then that's also your performance and your presentation of how are you reacting to your guest? How are you pulling things out of them? How are you smiling and just rolling with it? What are you doing to, for me, sometimes it was the topic would be for 10 minutes and I'd have a few sub questions to ask, just knowing in case I don't get the 10 minutes worth, I could ask these questions. And our back and forth would maybe be a minute and a half. I'd ask my 3 questions. That'd be another 3 minutes. And I have 7 more minutes to kill. And I'm realizing that the 4 topics we've selected, I'm not even going to get to the halfway point of my hour-long show. What am I going to talk about? How am I going to present this? How am I going to slow it down? What could I say to buy more time? And those are all things that I have to think about on the fly while I'm live, while I'm interviewing a guest. And I have to smile and be able to communicate and keep the presentation going of the live show. Just now, I've started bringing in like an actual keyboard and mouse so that I can really move things around. But for a long time, I didn't even do that. I would be sitting here, not responding, not looking at anything else. You can see today, I will pull comments up on the screen, but I'm not sitting here typing and responding to them. I'm not dropping links in the comments. I'm not doing any of that. And that's something that LinkedIn actually does encourage. They encourage you while you are live to almost have another tab open and be responding to comments while you're live. I would rather respond to them out loud to you. What's up, Brandy? I don't know if I said what's up to you. What's up? And Gregory, I think I missed this, but thank you. I thought our moms were so fabulous. I really hope you guys go back and watch that episode. Lindsay says, vamping is a skill. I have to do this on lives and on my podcast. You have mastered this, my friend. Thank you, Lindsay. It really is something that you have to be able to think on your feet, and you have to be resilient. You have to be able to do a million things at once, right? It's so funny. I'm going to tell you all a story about my son learned this. I'm not going to tell who told him, but my son learned this. And he said, my mother could wash the dishes, hold a baby, and talk on the phone all at one time, talking about multitasking, right? You have to be a good multitasker to do a live show. And then he's talking about how his dad, if he gets a phone call, he has to just go sit on the couch while he processes his phone call while he talks. It's not multitasking, right? It's sitting and processing and doing one thing. When you are doing a live show, you're about to do a million things at once. And when I used to have sponsors, especially when I used to have Sendoso as a sponsor and we were doing giveaways, we're not doing giveaways anymore, LinkedIn. Don't hear that word and freak out. No giveaways are happening on the show. LinkedIn changed your terms and conditions. If you didn't know, you cannot do giveaways on the show. But when we were doing giveaways, I'd have to have a separate tab open. I'd have to make sure people were commenting on the giveaway, all of those things. Yes, Lindsay, can you explain in the comments? Vamping. Explain. Okay, but all of these things affect your presentation. They affect your performance, and how much preparation you do will affect this as well. But at the end of the day, until you are just confident that you can handle anything that comes at you, you're gonna have nerves and it's gonna be hectic and it's not always gonna feel great. But at the end of the hour, you're going to feel rewarded. At the end of the hour, you're going to have leveled up. At the end of the hour, you're going to be so much better for putting in that hour's worth of work. And it is work. Hosting a live show is work. Keeping the engagement is work. This is a performance. It is an hour performance 100%. So it is performing. And an hour-long performance is a long time. Go just try to sing in the car for an hour to a soundtrack. For a full hour, sing every word to every song for a full hour and don't stop. And tell me you're not tired at the end. It is exhausting to talk for a full hour. Most of the time, especially in the show, I have somebody that I'm popping back and forth with, and somebody else is taking airtime for 30 minutes at least, right? But that's not happening all the time, especially not on a solo show like this. Okay, Lindsay gave us a definition. Vamping is a theater term for when you have an awkward pause and you are filling that space with some value. Lindsay isn't even a guest today, and she just taught you all something. All right, in case you didn't hear me, we're teaching you something. Well, Lindsay's teaching you via the show. Vamping is a theater term for when you have an awkward pause and you are filling the space with some value. So that's what Lindsay just did for us. Sometimes it's dance, sometimes it's seg, but talent, you don't want to have blank stare. Perfect. Yes, I've never heard this term. Sorry, Lauren, have to catch the rest on YouTube. Thanks for always showing up for the shows. I show up when I'm not sick. Season 2, if you watch the show season 2, I pushed through. I think I did 2 or 3 shows with COVID. I was definitely sick a number of shows. And I'm not doing that this year. I want to be here every Friday. I want the show to be something amazing and incredible, but not having sponsors gives me a little bit more freedom, especially trying to make the show a little bit more mobile. It's going to give me some more freedom. And if I'm not feeling it, the show might not happen that Friday, and that's okay. That is the Friday Live with Lauren show. When we are live, we will be live, and I will be live most Fridays, but I'm not going to be as hostage to the show as I was seasons past. I have heard this term as known as tap dancing, Lindsay Dowd. There you go. See, everybody's learning something new today. Okay, other things in terms of your performance and presentation skills. One of the big things that I do when I'm on the show and I have to, say, introduce someone or something like that, one, before I go live, I always ask my guests how they pronounce their name. I do not assume. If I have not heard them say it out loud, I ask. And that has saved me. Ask. Don't assume. Just ask a question. It's horrible to introduce somebody by a name and then them introduce their name and say it differently than you did. And I also let my guests introduce themselves. I don't think I can do as good of a job reading from a script about someone as someone can do talking about themselves. So I do not introduce my guests. I say, I have this person joining me. I'm going to let them talk, and I let them introduce themselves. Now, I do give them some guidelines before they start. I don't want a 10-minute introduction. I don't want you to read your resume. It's just a short, brief introduction about who you are and why people should want to learn from you. But I really do think that figuring out the performance piece is important. You can practice in the mirror. I know people say that. I don't necessarily think that helps as much. For me, talking to strangers, putting myself in uncomfortable situations. There was a boat party where I laid down on the boat, a yacht party in the middle of the crowd, and put myself in an uncomfortable situation. And all of those things teach you that you can't care about other people's opinions, and you have to be able to push through anything. More on that. If you want to go back and watch the episode where we talk about that, let me know. I'll drop the link. She also puts notes in the high fives, and I do my best. I do. So if I know somebody pronounces their name a certain way, I will try to tell Michelle how to pronounce it in the high fives, because I think that's important. Our names are important. Where your name comes from is important. How you pronounce it's important. All of those things. Okay, we got 15 minutes left in this show. I have one more topic to talk about. I'm probably not going to talk about it for the full 15 minutes. We might end a little bit early today. I'm not going to say I'm going to give you your time back because you're giving me your time. But it's really been nice talking to you guys for this 45 minutes so far. And yes, I got a Stanley for Christmas. I'm now a Stanley person. It's got like UCF stuff all over it. Go Knights, charge on. If you are a UCF fan, I like you even more. Okay, growing an audience and monetization goals. Let's talk about it. So I did not start the live show until I had already pretty much established an audience on LinkedIn. I think I definitely had over 20 or 25,000 followers when I started the live show. So I had already grown an audience and established an audience, but establishing followers and establishing an audience for a live show are completely different things. If you are watching, and most of you know, there's a consistent few of you who show up each week. I appreciate you more than you would ever understand. because I know how much it means to show up, to listen, to be on your end of things. So thank you, one, for coming and showing up. And the other thing is that when you're working on growing an audience, you won't be for everyone. I'm not for everyone. And I don't expect to be for everyone. But the show is growing at a rate that I am happy with. I also know that LinkedIn has changed a lot of things recently on how they're pushing live shows and their algorithm and all of those kinds of things. But growing the audience has to be something that is important to you, but it can't be your only goal, right? Yes, growing the audience is important, especially if you have monetization goals. But I do feel like just in sales, people can feel that commission breath. If your whole show is only that something you want to make money off of and you're not super clear about that with your audience from the get-go, it's not going to feel natural and it's not going to feel good or comfortable for people to watch. Yes, Brandy, that is the most important thing. I do agree with that. Woo, woo. Um, Monetization goals, I think, are interesting. I think that especially on LinkedIn now that the terms and conditions have changed and what they want things to be are different, I think that you need to really understand what it means to monetize a live show on LinkedIn. For me, I use LinkedIn for my recruiting agency. It is the number one platform that I find my leads for both candidates and for business referrals and clients. So I cannot jeopardize losing my LinkedIn account over a live show that when I monetize the live show, I don't make more than in my recruiting agency, right? If I was making more off of the live show than in my recruiting agency, okay, of course, 100% figure it out. But I'm not, I wasn't. And honestly, I think I talked about this a little earlier. I said we talk about it. When I started monetizing the show and having sponsors, show wasn't as exciting for me. The show felt more of an obligation. It was something I would have to do than something I wanted and got to do and had the privilege to do. And I think shifting your mindset and remembering that I have the privilege to be here. I have the privilege to grow this audience. I have the privilege to show up each Friday and have people tune in and listen and come back each week to see who that next guest is. So that's important to me. And again, if you are one of these people who show up consistently, or if this is your first time, thank you, thank you, thank you. Chris, have a great weekend. Thanks for coming so far. Appreciate you. See you next week in Linky Land. Yes, UCF is in Orlando. I went to UCF. I graduated in 2010. I'll let you guys do the math. But I graduated from UCF in 2010. Now, other things with monetization goals, if you ever monetize a live show, like I monetize this show, some things I did wrong and I don't necessarily have a solution for you, and I'm not going to tell you the right way because I'm not monetizing my show anymore. But last season, my goal was 52 episodes, one episode every single Friday for an entire year. I think we ended up at 49. There was one or two that I was too sick to do, and one that I physically wasn't back in the studio in time to do. So I think we ended up 49 episodes last season, but I wanted to do 52. And when I was talking to companies about a rate and how much they would pay and all of these things, I didn't put anything in for sick days or makeup shows or anything like that. And I definitely had times in the middle of the year with monetization and sponsors where I felt like I had to keep going no matter what, and the show must go on. And that's not just for my sponsors. I'm sure they would have been very, very understanding if I would have reached out, but it's a commitment you make. So think about those things if you ever do think about monetizing your show. And then at the end of the day, if you're monetizing your show and you're having guests come on your show, should you be paying your guests to come on your show if they typically get paid for things like that? All of those things start to come into play. For me, it's just easier to not monetize my show. If I have somebody who's willing to come on and grow my audience and help them learn, wonderful. And if not, we're going to find somebody else because not everybody is everybody's cup of tea. Man, I feel like I've been talking for a long time. I guess it's been 50 minutes. Okay. Any other questions? Let me know. I feel like the last big thing is talking about the Fun Friday fact. So I if we go way back to audience engagement, when I realized that people weren't staying until the end of the show, I decided to start doing the Fun Friday Fact. And it did actually help with engagement and getting people to stay on until the end of the show. I wish I could I'm sure I have screenshots somewhere I can pull and show you, but I could do screenshots from before and show you the engagement before, where people would fall off literally maybe 5 or 6 minutes ago before the Fun Friday Fact. Like 3:42, 3:43, 42, 43 minutes in. And then when we added the Fun Friday Fact and the giveaways to the end of the show, people stayed almost the entire 59 minutes. So the Fun Friday Fact, it wasn't always something that I was giving a Fun Friday Fact. It was typically the guest was giving a fact, but you have big guests come on the show. You have interesting people come on the show. And the show is kind of serious. We're talking about all these topics. And then we have this Fun Friday Fact, and it's silly and it's goofy and it's not that serious, y'all. And it's just something to kind of wrap the show in a funny, fun, funky way. And we had some really funny stuff, but it was all just something that was interesting and unique. And each guest brought something a little bit different and kind of took to it a different way. And it was something that was just unique and exciting and I hadn't seen done before, and I loved it. So my Fun Friday Fact, if you are watching today, if you did not know, it snowed in Florida this week. It did not snow as far south as I live. I did not get in on the fun. I think we would have had to drive, I was corrected, over 8 hours to see the snow. But it did snow in Florida this week. So we broke Florida's all-time record in Milton, Florida. Milton received 9.8 inches of snow, I believe, between Tuesday and Wednesday. 9.8 inches of snow. That sounds like a crap ton of snow to me. But I live in Florida and I don't know. So y'all watching, Gregory, is 9.8 inches a lot of snow? Jody, is that a lot for like a 24-hour period? That sounds like a lot to me. There were actual snow flurries like reported where I live. I didn't see any of them. Apparently you could see them if you were outside overnight. There were snow flurries, but I was not outside. I was sleeping. I don't have warm clothes. So no, we were not outside in the snow. We were sleeping warm in our bed. And I will say that I turned the heat on, probably the highest it's ever been in my house ever, in the state of Florida, is like my other Fun Friday fact. The last time it snowed in Florida was in 2022, which doesn't seem like that long ago, realistically. Before that, 2018 and 2014. So maybe in the next like 4 or 5 years, we'll have snow again. Who knows? Lindsay says that's more than we got in Boston. Okay, 9 inches is a lot. I'm not crazy. It feels like that's a lot of snow, right? All right, cool. Y'all, this was fun. I am still looking for more guests for the show this year. I'm looking for new guests for the show this year. I do have a link if you're interested in being guests. DM me, let me know. Tom, the person that I connected with through you, is somebody who's going to come on the show. Super excited. And y'all, that's it. That was Friday. This was a good Friday. I hope you had a good day. I hope you had a great week. Get your dials in. Don't stop. You still have a little bit of time left at the end of the month to close those deals. And if you don't close all your deals this month, the sun will rise again and you can try again in February. So don't stress, don't sweat too bad. You got this. You can do anything. You cannot do everything. Hope you enjoyed it. But you know what I always say? If you didn't like it, don't come back. Bye, y'all.